Hey, this is Kaja Elliott, Bronx born and raised, ATL made, Bay Area becoming, and this is the As Told By podcast. You're straight. All right. Welcome to this week's episode of the As Told By podcast. I think we're up to what now? Episode 1, 2, 3. So this is episode 3. We're at the halfway point of the season. And my guest today is, do I want to give you the name first or do I want to give y'all the hints first? I'll give you the name first. Because this is, y'all know this name. I know y'all know this name because everybody knows him. It's Azikiwee Anderson of Rize Up Bakery, the fastest growing bakery I've ever seen. So Azikiwee is the homie. The bread is great. The business model is booming. So I'm like, we need to get him up to the As Told By podcast to talk to him. So thanks for coming up here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I feel all super special.
Listen, this is a special thing because it's raining today per usual. This has been raining for 40 days and 40 nights. It feels like he came pulling up in here on 2 wheels trying to get in here from the city because, you know, business and rain and transportation waits for no man. So I'm glad we got to sit down and talk today.
I am too. I literally, I was making sure everything was getting delivered to all the different markets in the rain. So I ended up Ubering over here because all my vehicles are snatched up.
They busy delivering that bread.
Yeah.
So listen, let me let you talk. I introduced you just at a high level, but for the listenership who may not be familiar with you or with Rize Up, tell them what Rize Up Bakery is.
So it's, as far as I know, especially in San Francisco, it's the only Black-owned artisan sourdough bread bakery. So I started out of my home during the beginning of the pandemic. Everyone knows that sourdough kind of blew up during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Nothing like, you know, taking away everybody's anything to do and keeping you at home to allow you the time to be able to bake. So I kind of started dabbling a little bit, and then, you know, fast forward a couple 3 years now, and have my own bakery and a bunch of employees, and
wow,
you know, it's really, really crazy. I tell people all the time, I feel like I'm scaling at the speed of sound, but now it might even be the speed of light. It's really nuts.
I've seen you say that, and I definitely want to dig into what that's been like. But let's start back at the beginning, because I feel like I know you, but I feel like I don't know a whole bunch about you. Like, I just remember Azikiwee showing up, and I'm like, where did he come from? I know you're not from the Bay originally, so take us back to the beginning.
Are we going way back?
We going back, because I want people to feel like, you know, they know the bread through you, right? So who's Azikiwee? Where are you from? Where did you grow up originally? You know, what's your family dynamic like? And then how did you find your way into the Bay Area?
Well, 47 years ago. No, I was born in New Orleans, and my mother brought us to San Francisco under duress when I was about 5 years old. And when we first got here, we didn't have any place to go, so we were homeless for a while. Wow. And then we got picked up by a battered women's shelter, and then they helped kind of rehabilitate my mom and kind of get her into school and just kind of teach her what's what in the city and kind of help her go through what she was going through to, you know, kind of make a new start. And then, you know, we were here until I was about 11. And then, you know, that was kind of beginning part of the kind of crack epidemic in San Francisco, or in California in general, or the world. And my mom was like, you know, where we could afford to live was not the greatest, you know, single mother with 3 kids. So she was like, all right, I got to get you guys out of here before something goes bad. And so she took us up to Chico, California.
Okay, I've heard of Chico.
And we had never heard of Chico.
He's like, we had not.
Yeah, we had not heard of Chico. And so we went up to Chico, and Chico was a bit of a mixed bag because it was quaint and kind of small townish, which allowed us a certain amount of freedom. but it was also not very diverse. So we stuck out like sore thumbs. And so, I graduated from high school and literally left the next day and moved to Santa Rosa to go to junior college.
Okay.
Santa Rosa Junior College is dope, if anybody's listening. And I didn't really know what I wanted to be, didn't really know what I could be. And then by hook or by crook, started skating inline skates. I was really into quad skating.
Dude?
Yeah, I'm a skater dude in a weird way. Yeah,
Cool,
I'm a twisted road. I got all sorts of. That's why I said, how far are we going back? So I started. I was a gymnast at my big old self was a gymnast, and I used to coach gymnastics at a period of time. And then I had some dudes come in, and they were like, "Hey, we see you coaching people. You think you can coach us? So we want to learn how to do some flips." And they were a ragtag little crew. I was like, "Sure, I can teach you." You know, I'm 6'3" dude, black dude with dreads in like all white town teaching gymnastics, and they were just like, "You're different." So I was like, "Okay."
The story is great.
Yeah,
this is great.
This is all right. Fun. So I started teaching them, and there was one of the two brothers that I was teaching, and if I said black, he said white. If I said white, he said black. It was like he was just confrontational in general. He's a good cat, but he was like, you know, he's like punk rock, and was like, the things that you're teaching us aren't what I see in the videos. I want you to teach us I want to be able to do what's in the videos. So I was like, well, you know, I never seen these videos. so why don't you bring me a video and I'll show you. I'll see if I can teach you. So they brought me a video and I watched it and I was instantly amazed. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know people could do that on skates. So then I started hanging out with them and started skating. Then I got sponsored, and that kind of changed my whole life and changed my whole trajectory.
Oh, wow.
So I skated. I was a professional skater for, upwards of 20-something years.
Wow.
And I was like, went to X Games kind of stuff and
really
judged. And that was my whole livelihood. That was like my whole
That's a whole
thing.
career, 20 years.
My whole career. This is like my second career.
Second act.
Yeah, my second act. So, and then, as you get older, I started having kids, and I didn't want to be gone, because my job was basically go places and do things far away.
Yeah.
So, nothing like having a tether to be like, I don't want to be gone. I want to be with my little ones. So, so then I stopped traveling, and that world with all the love, and it was basically all I was. So then I had to figure out what I wanted to do with the next part of my life. And so I was a businessman here and there for a while. And then I was a stay-at-home dad for a while. And then I went to culinary school. And
okay. Where'd you go?
I went to San Francisco Cooking School.
Okay.
Yeah, which was really amazing. They taught me a lot about myself. They taught me a lot about what I could do if I could hack it, And it was a really, really good curriculum because it wasn't really about the past. It was really about the future, and like how you could be a part of, like the thriving San Francisco if you chose food scene. And it was very empowering. So,
okay. Were you going down a certain track while you were in culinary school? Like, were you feeling called to baking or?
Oh, no, not at all.
That wasn't your specialty at that time?
No, I was, I'm like 100% savory. Like,
okay.
Even to this day, don't get me wrong. I like sweets every once in a while, but it's like a bite here and a bite there. I don't know if it's my past or like just my body style in general, but I'm always afraid. I'm like, I ain't trying to get no beatus. So I try to chill out when it comes to sugar. Yeah, right. The sugar trying to come get me. So I mostly was into savory, doing, whether it's ceviting steaks and searing them off, or, making gumbo, or, all the things, So classically French trained, I guess. But then, and actually, I thought I couldn't bake. Like I can make like biscuits. I can make like cornbread. I can, stuff like that. But, when it comes to like bread making, I was like, nah, that's not for me.
Yeah, that's a skill.
Well, and this is we'll probably speak later about it, but like I'd never seen a black baker ever, like my entire life. So those are some of the things that I came to where all of a sudden I realized, like, representation really does matter, because I'd never seen anyone even remotely look like me that does what I love doing now. So I where was I?
You went to culinary school.
I went to culinary school, yeah. And I worked at a couple different restaurants and did a bunch of gun for hire, where I would show up and do stuff for people, with people, other chefs I knew, like backup. And then I started realizing that I could work all week, or I could work like 2 days and do my own gig where I was a private chef, and I could do a day of shopping, a day of prep, load in and do 7-course meal with like wine pairing for 20 people and kind of high end. Okay. And I could earn a decent living and be with my kids most of the week. So,
so I was to your lifestyle.
I was doing that. I like the idea of like being able to decide what you really are passionate about, decide what you really want to do, and then do it well, and not be forced to do other things that you really don't care about in order to earn a living. So it's my life. I only got one chance at it, so I might as well try to make it the best it can be. So, that's right. So yeah, I'm like the whole I got to show up all day and bust my butt for nothing. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm like, I feel like if I'm gonna work that hard, I should.
Right. What's my other options?
Yeah, what's my other options?
Right.
So, but the belief in oneself and the luxury to, kind of figure that out, it's not given to everyone. So I definitely feel very fortunate that I figured it out. I could figure it out. Yeah.
So now, so French trained chef, classically trained chef, working in restaurants, working as a private chef, and then the pandemic comes.
Boom.
And shelter in place, and
Bam.
Nobody's going to any place. So you're a chef, you make food, you create social events around food, and now nobody's leaving the house.
My family was eating really good.
I bet they were.
For the first 2 or 3 months of pandemic, it was like Shay Azikiwee up in this. It was that's what this all started with. Is we were like stay home, so we had I got invited to a thread of friends, families, and everybody was like, this is what I made for dinner, this, taking pictures and being like, here's a recipe, or this is what I want to do, and sharing stuff, just kind of a foodie blog kind of within our own little friend group. And then it was like, I started making sourdough. You guys want to make sourdough? And I was kind of like, I'm good. And they were like, what? Come on. Like, lightweight, got shamed into it, was like, all right, well, I guess I'll try, Yeah. And it was not very good. It was I sucked at it. And I look back at the pictures the other day. Somebody said, oh, like, I bet you were really good. And I was like, no, like, I was horrible. Like, I look back now, and there's just so much you don't know, right? And
you don't know that you don't know.
Exactly.
Right.
I think that's even worse, right? Is you don't even know what you don't know. Right. And, there's a certain amount of like just reps and repetition of doing something where if you're paying attention, you learn, right? And then there's the other thing of just like, I'm watching YouTube videos and, stuff like that, just trying to like eke out the secret, and I had plenty of time to do that. So I watch things, but there's nothing like, especially with, I think, cooking, and it's a certain amount of like, they say science, but there's a certain amount of intuition to it as well, where it's like, what it's supposed to be like. And so you can kind of freestyle a little bit. I think that's the difference between like cooking. Like if you're a really good cook, you give me like 5 ingredients and
work it out.
I can work it out. Use my palate. And, okay, we need a little bit of this. Oh, well, I need a little smoke. I need something, Where when you're baking, it's very like, 2
it's
grams.
Science.
Well, it is, and it isn't. At the beginning, if you don't have, like, if you're not controlling variables and you don't understand what variables affect the outcome, then you're just adrift. Like, like you just have ingredients, right? Like I tell people cook, it's like you can put a bunch of ingredients in it. It doesn't mean you got a meal, right? Like you just got all the pieces, but you know, the technique and the, like, you know, have you ever had it where you like go to eat something, carrots aren't quite cooked right, the you know, onions
Pasta's
are still
too
hella
soft.
crunchy, everything's over. So you got all the right stuff, but you just kind of went through the motions. You don't understand what you're actually shooting for,
right?
And so the scientific part about understanding bread in particular, or sourdough bread in particular, is more about what is it supposed to feel like? You know, what is the temperature supposed to be around, right? So like if you know the ballpark, then you can riff, right? And that part is what most people never get to. Because when you spend 20 hours working on something and it comes out and it's horrible, I don't really know if I want to do that again.
Spend your money on high-end ingredients.
That's the reason I got a job. Right? Everyone's like, oh, I tried it, man. It's hard. I'm going to come get something from you.
Like, we can't even eat this.
Yeah. So I made a lot of those mediocre, like, oh, this is good. It's like, why did your voice go up so much? Like, if your voice go up that high, like, obviously it's not that good.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah, right.
You
can always tell when someone really likes something. They go, their voice drops. It's like, this is good. If people go, it's like, oh, no.
That's the indicator, right? So, you know, you're everywhere, right? You're in all the farmers markets, right?
I am not in all.
We were just talking about, you had to bring in a marketing manager to like manage your presence. You're in all these farmers markets. I just saw you were recently featured. Your bread was featured in a high-end pop-up dinner. You're in Berkeley Bowl. You're in the SF Chronicle. Like, what has it been like to cover this amount of ground so fast?
Well, did I say I was ADD? Did I say I got ADHD? No. So this is the way my brain works, like, all the time, and always has been. So most of the time, it's a hindrance, because if I'm getting pulled this way and pulled that way, like, my follow through or my throughput sometimes gets pulled off course because I've got grandiose ideas, and I have this weird thing where I think I can do almost anything. Right? I'm like, well, if I put some serious work in, I can figure it out. That's my superpower. And so, at the first bit, it was just 20-hour days of that, just so that I didn't let people down. And I also have that where it's like, I want to show. I've been kind of self-reflecting lately. So I definitely always wanted to show the world that I was worth something. I always wanted to have people know that, that when they looked at me, that they could respect. I was respectable, right? I didn't like the way the world really saw me most times, or the reflection that I got from, I do something, I look out, and what's coming back at me is not what I'm putting out to the world. Is So when this project in particular first started, and it started to blow up, I just didn't want people to have a negative experience and think that, oh, I gave him a chance, but he didn't really come through. So I worked extra hard to make sure that it was like beautiful and good and was getting out there. And also, there's a certain part of that, like, you could say I did it for people, but I also did it for myself, because I wanted to show myself that whatever I put my mind to, I could do. So yeah, this has definitely been like, at the beginning it was like work, and then it got to a place where it had a certain gravity of its own, where people started being like, I like what you're doing. I want to help. And I was like, okay, sure. Yeah.
We take out. Yeah.
Like, come on in. I got millions of hours worth of work for you. So, and then it became more about like maintaining quality, scaling, making sure that we were good collaborative partners, and made collaborations and made stuff for people. A lot of the people that we first started working with were, like Excelsior Coffee. It's like a small coffee shop. That's where our ube bread came from. Like they are a mixed family, and a Filipina, and her husband, beautiful family, and they had like I went to them and was like, well, if you could have any choice of like what you would like if you were me and you were going to make something for yourself, what would it be? and like being able to like talk to people and do those, whether or not we were going to like sell thousands of loaves or hundreds of loaves, even if we were only going to sell like 20, just making the right stuff for the right reasons, I think grabbed people's attention. We're like, I've never seen anything like this. Like this is in a place that normally wouldn't even be able to have stuff like this. And that's how I felt. I felt very lucky that I could even make the stuff and that people even wanted this stuff. So I just kind of kept that vibe going of like doing it what I felt was for the right reasons, which is kind of the representation thing I was talking about, where, whether it's malicious or not, is there a certain like exclusivity to the industry that I'm in, where, it's like there is no real voice. Like, why would I make that? I don't know anyone like that. I don't know what, I don't know if there's a market for that. Like, I know this sells, so I'm going to keep doing this. And that's geared towards a group. And so my whole idea is like, can I take the shine that we have and shine light on other groups that otherwise aren't really represented and do it at a really high level? So if it's like the masala bread or...
That masala bread is good, y'all.
I know, I love that one. That's a good one. That was labor of love. Worked with a wonderful food writer, and we co-developed that, Lena. Shout out to Lena.
What up, Lena?
Yeah. So getting to work with people that I really care about, getting to work with people that are really passionate about food, getting to work with small kind of mom and pop shops. And so yeah, all that stuff takes a certain amount of like, I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere, But then it starts getting in, because I feel like those things that differentiate us also make people go, oh, wow, like we want you in our shop. So like we're in like 25 accounts now, and hopefully that'll be growing this year.
And by accounts, does that mean retail outlets?
It's a mixture of retail outlets and fine dining establishments.
Okay.
So as of right now, all of the people that we're working with, they saw us on Instagram or wherever they saw us, and they liked what we were doing, and they reached out. So my little heart on my sleeve is like, the people that we are working with, they found us, right? So that's that gravity that I was talking about. And that's also part of the things that really feed my soul, is the fact that I actually feel seen. The thing that I said that I wanted to really accomplish when I was working 20-hour days, I feel like now there's a critical mass of that, where people are like, we see you and we want to be in the game with you. And I'm like, oh, really? Like that's like, it makes me feel really good. So like, somebody will come up and their little kid will grab the bread and it's all excited because they know the bread. And I'm like, it feeds my soul, right? Like, doesn't matter how much we made on the loaf. It really matters that they're so excited. Because at the beginning I had like cracks, and I was trying to fill those cracks, and I couldn't really hold my stuff together when I first started this. And so when I would work really, really hard on, just 10 loaves or 5 loaves, and then all of a sudden people would pick them up and they'd be so excited to pick them up. Like that excitement and that joy, like the thing that made me happy all of a sudden made someone else happy.
Yep.
And that is really, I think, the thing that made Rize Up come to life.
Okay. And so Rize Up has now recently come to new life in a storefront.
Yes.
In San Francisco. So, in addition to markets and restaurants and, grocery stores, now what is the experience like having a full-scale production space and eventually a place to sell out of directly?
Yeah, so I haven't really talked about this that much, but
breaking news.
We had got to a place where we had grown big enough that we needed to either put more money into the smaller place that we were in, or we needed to find a new place. And that happened very quickly. I can't say 100% because of my choice. And so the very first place that, like the day that I found out that we needed to move, the very first place we went to is the place we're at now.
Oh.
So I like.
So why hit a quitter?
No, it was definitely not.
Oh.
But it was the very first place we went. And I walked in and I was like, oh my God, like I could totally make dreams happen here, right? Mm. And I go and walk every space, and because wouldn't really call myself like a visionary, but I can see things, right? So when I walk into a space, my imagination is such that I can imagine what it would be like. And if that hits me hard, mm-hmm. then I work really hard to see that come to light. Mm-hmm. And so when I walked into the space, I was instantly like mesmerized, like, oh my God, like this could be it. But I also knew that it would take a lot of energy to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
And so then I literally went and looked at another 30 spaces over the next, like, I don't know, probably I would see like 2 or 3 spaces a day.
Wow. And
some of them I would literally walk in and it was the opposite of that. I'd walk in and be like, nope.
Walk right back out.
Yeah, exactly.
Grand opening, grand closing.
Yeah. And they'd be like, well, we could do that. Nah, I'm good. Well, it's like, like some places you walk in and you can run in the right direction, mm-hmm. right? Like everything is moving in the right direction. Other things, you got to go backwards 5 steps and over sideways just to get back to. I'm like, I don't have time for all that. Yeah. So thing that I'm most proud about with my entire crew is we found a space, negotiated the contract, moved in, and got making bread we passed our inspections and got making bread all in 45 days, which is insane.
That's real quick. I remember seeing on Instagram when you shared, they were like hauling the big ovens in, and I'm like, this is a whole production.
Yeah. Well, those ovens were supposed to be there before we moved in. Mm-hmm. And then, all the stuff, COVID and trying to get things, and, it showed up like 2.5 months later. So everything happens for a reason. Yeah. And, but we got in, we did what we needed to do. And I have to give like super props to my entire team. I think a lot, I'm going to stop just for 1 second. Mm-hmm. I feel like I get a certain amount of applause or a certain amount of respect because I had really good ideas at the beginning and I had a lot of good work, but don't let it get twisted. I would be nothing without all of the people that are putting their life force in to make my dreams happen. Like It is really, really like, showing up, doing the extra hours, car breakdown, coming up with their own personal car to pick stuff up so that we don't lose face, coming in, working, one of our people, his mama had a mild heart attack. He had to leave. And our other, Liz, shout out to Liz. Liz comes in, 4 hours early at 1:00 in the morning to bake the thing so everything can go out so I can get an extra 2 hours of sleep. I mean, like, it is literally a labor of love for, most every single person I would think that is working with us. And, and I know what I'm capable of. I went as far as I could by myself. It was non-sustainable. Every time I told people I worked 20-hour days, they were like, that's not good. I'm like, well, I love it. And they're like, yeah, but you're going to implode. And I'm like, one of these days I'll be able to hire someone else.
Somebody else.
And now I have that. And I know what I can do without people, and I know what I can do with people. And I'm just so proud that we've built the little family that we have.
To have it. You must be clairvoyant, because I swear my next question is, how in the world are you keeping up with all this, and how have you had to embrace the power of a team? So look, you led me right to the next point, because your business is interesting in that it's one of those where it could be very easy for you to become the technician. And for those of you who listened to the episode just prior to this with Nana Kofi Inti and Court Smith of Hope Foundation, this is one of the things they talked about having to implement systems in order to scale. You won't be able to scale and grow without it, because if your head's down doing the work, there's no way to steer the direction of the business for growth.
Yeah, I had a lady who helped. She's like a mentor, or I would say kind of like consultant, to just kind of like, we would have weekly, bi-weekly meetings where she would just kind of ask me the hard questions about the business, and one of the hardest questions she asked me, and one of the hardest things she ever put on into my mind, which actually hurt a lot, was, you got to stop working in your business and start working on your business. And it actually made me really mad, because I was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I'm working my ass off.
You don't see me making this bread, lady?
I'm like, yeah. And so, and it wasn't until I got enough people, because all of my bakers and all the people that are working with us, like, we're a ragtag kind of like little A-team, Motley Crew little group. And none of us have worked in other bakeries. So everybody, I've taught them the way that I had learned. And so I have a very different relationship, because we're not doing what other people do. We're basically doing what we do, right? That's not to be said that it's not akin or in a parallel with what other people do, but a majority of the way we do it, like, I came up with. And then I taught them the way I do it. And that was very expensive at the beginning, because everybody that came in, I had to teach them how to do it, right? It wasn't like, oh, you work at this other place and then now you can come here and you're just good.
Yeah.
It was you start at the bottom and work your way up. First, you were just helping wash dishes and help sweeping up and being there to support the people that were fast. And we called those, what do we call them? It was like a facilitator, basically. So you would help facilitate getting stuff done, right? And so if that meant that you, like, sprayed down the top and put the sesame seeds on top so that they could keep shaping fast, it just made everyone a little bit faster.
Okay.
And then when things got to like a lull, then you could jump in and learn how to shape. But as soon as you were slowing everybody down, then you had to jump back off and do whatever needed to get done. And that was the way every single person had been taught. Well, it takes about 4 months to get up to a place where you're actually kind of kicking butt, where you're like, okay, I understand what we call the dance, right? You're over here, I'm over here, I'm going to go take this, I'm going to go do that, I'm going to do, and when you get 3 or 4 of those people together, they're incredibly fast. It's like a strike team, right? But at the beginning, it was always one person that knew what they were doing, and then like 1 or 2 people helping out. And now we're like interchangeable, right? We have like 6 people that all know what they're doing at any given moment and can do every single thing. And it's starting to be like really fun.
A machine.
I come down, I'm like, damn, you already done? Like, that would have took us till 2 and 3 in the afternoon. They're like 11:30, 12. They're like done. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's starting to get to a place where that is a key part of the scaling, right? Like, and I'm not the one doing every single loaf. Before, every single loaf that went through us, like, I touched. And now it's like I'm a consultant to my crew. I come down when they have really hard problems. I'm like, where are you at? What temperature is it? What's the plan? And so, and it's funny because I support them. Like, now I'm the facilitator. I'm the one. So they're like, oh, I'm sick or I'm hurt. I'm like, I got you. And I jump back in. But I have the luxury to dream and to make connections and to go out and start selling us and work on new stuff. That's really where my heart is creating, Yeah. I put one post up a little while ago that was like, if I'm not creating, I don't know, I don't feel right, Yeah. And that it is really, really true. Like, I love the idea. My team sometimes get a little nervous. They're like, dude, we already got like 20 different styles. Like, chill out.
You can chill.
Like, I'm like, nah, we're going to come up with some more new stuff.
I hear that. Yeah. What, we are talking a lot about, the growth and the development and what's been going well, but what have been some of the failures?
The failures.
Through this process?
See, you're talking to the wrong person because I don't see anything as a failure.
Okay.
My perspective is I'm always going to make the best decisions I can make with the information that I have. I'm always going to come at it with a good heart and good intention. And even if something doesn't work out, it's not a failure because I just learn things. Mm-hmm. So I learn, what not to do. I learn my own limitations. I learn not to push people too far. I learn, something positive about what somebody on my team, what they're capable of, right? So it's never really like a failure. I make mistakes, some things that I'm like, damn, that sucked, mm-hmm. But, why did it suck? It sucked because we tried to do it too fast. It sucked because we didn't have enough lead time. It was bad because it was on a day when our biggest day and I try to squeeze something else in. You just learn not what you can't do or what can go wrong so much as like when you should try to do it and what the rhythm is of your life, what the rhythm is of the shop.
Okay.
And sometimes that's a financial rhythm. Sometimes that's a personnel rhythm. Sometimes that's a amount of sleep rhythm. So I just keep trying to hone who I am and trying to be, a good leader, I guess,
The bandwidth of the business.
Yeah. You can mess yourself out by trying to do too many things at once, right? Mm-hmm. I've done that where I'm like, okay, I can do a lot of things, but maybe I shouldn't try to do all those at the same day, at the same time,
yeah.
And at the beginning it was like, well, it felt like it's like, well, if we don't do certain things, we're going to like go off into obscurity. So it's like, we need to deliver. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's what I think, the good part of learning, even though it was hard and has been hard on everyone at times, is, would you rather push your limits and do an extra 30 than you've never, you're always going to be bumping up against the most you've ever done. Mm-hmm. Right. I feel like I want to know where the line is, right? I want to know what we're capable of. And I just try to inspire people to enjoy that ride. Mm-hmm. And not, some people are like, oh, we got to do more. It's like, no, we get to do more.
Get to do more.
It's not we gotta. I mean, everybody can go home early and we turn the lights off right now, but that's not really what we're trying to do, right? And everyone's like, no, we want to do more. So, yeah.
Well, one of the ways I've seen that, you've gotten your arms around doing more is partnerships, right? Partnerships with other businesses in the Bay Area. So I know you have a partnership with That's My Jam company.
Yes.
Those biscuits, which are very good, by the way, and,
yes.
and easy to prepare.
I thought you were talking about the jam. Yes, the jam is very good. That's what I was saying.
Oh, the jam is bomb. But the biscuits that you've made to pair with them, which currently are exclusively available at That's My Jam pop-up in-person vending events.
Yes.
But then over the holiday, you partnered with Gumbo Social as, for some consultative information on making the gumbo loaf, which was very good.
Thank you.
I had one of those.
Yes.
Good job with that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. But, what are some things in this process that have been important to you as far as what you can impart to other emerging entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I feel like many hands make light work. I also feel like a certain amount of game recognized game. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like there should be a support group for, young entrepreneurs because we're just a different breed, right? Like you try to go and tell your friends about, you worked 20 hours and drove all this way and set up the thing and the pop-up and their life is so different that it just you sound crazy, right? Like, why would you do that? And it takes a certain amount of obsessive compulsive nature to like just push through the like doubt, push through the mental turmoil that you go through. Like you have to kind of be made for it. You have a certain amount of grit to just, there's been days where I'm like, I don't know how we're going to get through it. I, eat some food, take a nap, wake back up, and I say, I'll just keep trucking, And when you talk to another entrepreneur and like 2 weeks ago, I didn't even know how I could pay rent. Like most people be like, you should stop. And I'm like, no, that's when for me, that's when I double down. Right.
Okay.
Cause I'm like, if you're going to quit when it gets hard, you shouldn't even start because it's always going to get hard. And I feel like other entrepreneurs, they know that. And I'm like, well, if you're really, really good, I know what it takes to be really, really good at something. If you're really, really good at something, I don't got the 10,000 hours to be as good as you at that. But I'm really, really good at what I do, and you're really, really good at what you do. So why don't we, Wonder Twin Power activate together, and we can, co-promote. And I also feel like, it's like a whole nother level. Like, I don't have $150,000 marketing budget. I ain't got that. Like people ask me all the time, like, oh, like who does this and how much you, I'm like, I'm just taking pictures with my phone and, trying to share my journey with people. Right. And so the promotion, the co-promotion, the setting it up, the doing, I wear 15 hats. Right. Yeah. Being able to switch seamlessly between like, being at a high level OCD about something to make sure that it's beautiful and good, and then turn right around and be able to have a nice conversation and take the time that it takes to build your brand and talk to someone and relate to them and not be pissed off about one and bring it to the other. That's like a whole different level of concentration, a whole different level of kind of being. And when I see other people that are doing that, and I'm like, I can. And especially if you deliver, like if you shake my hand and you do what you're supposed to do, I'm like, naturally, like, of course I want you to succeed. Yeah. So I'm like, it doesn't even seem like they call it collaborations. I just feel like it's, business friendships. Like, I get geeked out when I see somebody that I know how hard they work, and all of a sudden they're on a magazine, or they got something going, or they on a TV show, and then I'm like, oh, that's I get a lot of what's that? There's a word for it. One of them, it's like Schadenfreude. It's like a German word where it's like you get pleasure out of other people's misery, and then there's the other word where it's like Freud. I don't know what it is. But it's like you get pleasure out of other people's success. And I am one of those people. Like, even though I can't say the word, I'm one of those people. I get excited when I see people that I know how hard they work succeed. It just, like, literally, I get super excited. Like, it makes my whole day, So.
Y'all doing this.
I'm like, hell yeah. Show them. Go get it. And I feel like that's maybe a little bit selfish, because I know it can happen. Like, when I see someone else doing it, then when I'm having a hard time, I'm like, my day's coming too. Like, like I just need a little inkling that the hard work is worth it. Yep. Right. And so when I see people getting theirs, it's empowering. It makes me happy. So,
yeah. I think that's what I like the most about some of these conversations that I've had with entrepreneurs specifically, is because that's part of who the listening audience of this podcast is. And, people are at varying stages of their journey. So it's amazing exactly what you said, that you can see, okay, they're in the same stage where I am, or they were there and I'm here now, and now look at where they are. So if you just hang in there a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, if you wait, I heard it's probably a cheesy quote or something, but if you wait for other people to give you what you need in order to believe in yourself, it ain't never gonna happen. Like the hard work and the doubt, like working through the doubt, that happens before everyone says, wow, you're deserving, right? It doesn't go the other way around. Yeah. And oftentimes, like, I talk about that vision, I'm getting goosebumps. Like, just because other people can't see your dreams doesn't mean your dreams can't be real. Like, you try to explain it to people, everyone's like, you should get a normal job. You should have a plan B. You should, have backup. And I'm like, that can work, but always in the front of your mind, you have to be like, well, what do I want to do? Because all we have is a certain amount of time here.
Right.
Right. And I've learned something, which whatever I spend the most time doing, what do you know? I get really good at it.
You know what? I'm laughing because I feel like I just have these, awarenesses, these epiphanic moments that come to me. This was over the summer, and I have a plant. I'm not a plant person. This is the second plant I've ever owned because the first one died, sadly. Right?
You killed your plant.
I killed the plant. There was a whole story about me trying to create humidity with a plastic bag over the plant. The plant suffocated and died.
You just choked it out.
Choked it out. Sorry.
Go to sleep.
I went back and got a replica because I'm like, okay, now I know what not to do. And I was watering the plant one day because it was flourishing. It was doing really good. And I was like, oh, shit. If you water something and keep it in enough light, it will grow. And I was like, oh, this is a life metaphor. Yeah. If you water something and you keep enough light and attention on it, it will actually grow.
Yeah. And intention is things are going to happen out in the world. But if you turn your gaze on something and you like, I need to do this, I want to do this, I'm going to spend time doing this, it happens.
You get what you get.
Yeah.
You get what you put in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that isn't always it doesn't pay back, pound for pound, mm-hmm. right? So you can put in a lot of energy moving in a direction that maybe isn't what you really want to do, and it's kind of like a law of diminishing returns. Like you can put in 10,000 hours, doesn't mean every one of those hours is going to get paid mm-hmm. right? The idea is that if you're doing something that pays your soul as you're doing it, it's not as big of a cost. Right. So if literally it's pulling teeth to do every single day, that cost is huge. Mm-hmm. And it sucks your life force because it's not fulfilling, right? It doesn't think of that word, fulfilling, right? It fulfills you, it fills you up, right?
Mm-hmm. A full feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you're sitting there and you're like, okay, well, I'm doing this thing that is not fulfilling, it's basically sucking energy from you. Mm-hmm. So then by the time you're finished doing it, you need to recover. Yeah. So it's like leaving the lights on your car that just suck the battery dry. Yep. Right. You need a generator. You need something in there that every energy that you put into it, it gives you something back to keep you powered, and I feel super powered, right? Because the thing that I'm putting all this energy into makes me happy and fulfills my soul. And that was the reason why I chose to try to make a run at it, is I'm like, well, if I'm going to do anything, I should do something that really makes me happy. And now there's certain parts of it where you're like, oh, I got to do this. Oh man, this thing is late. Oh, these people, this person did this. Oh, the stuff broke, but all of those things are just kind of noise that gets in the way of what I truly love, which is doing the thing. Yeah. Right. It just every once in a while I'll jump over the hurdle so I can get back to doing the thing, right? But the thing is, it's cool. The
thing is always what you come back to.
Exactly.
Yeah. What is the personal cost of all this been to you? I would imagine the time away from your family and those things, but looking back maybe over the last 2 years, what has the cost of this been?
The cost? Like financially or like a relationship?
Just for you as a person. How do you feel? Do you look back and feel like, boy, I used to have X as a really important part of my life, and that's just, I don't have room for that anymore. Or I used to really I used to really value, my perspective about this, and this has completely changed.
So I talk about that part as like holding my breath. Mm-hmm. There are certain things like I can take a certain amount of pain. I can take a certain amount of mental turmoil where it's like I know that it can't stop me if I'm like when I swim, I'm not the greatest swimmer. Mm-hmm. And when I swim, I know that worst case worse, I can stop swimming, I can take a deep breath, and I can just float, right? And sometimes I even start to sink a little bit. And I sink down a little bit, sink down a little bit. And then as long as I can swim back up just in time to get more breath, I'm living, right? It's not like, lamping on the beach, everything's perfect, but I can hold my breath for a long time, mm-hmm. right? when you're holding your breath, you're not normally making motion. When I'm holding my breath, I'm not swimming towards the goal, right? I'm just recovering or maintaining. And I would say that I've gotten really good at holding my breath during this. I used to work out, 4 or 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. I don't really do that much anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm just now getting to a place because of the crew where I'm like feeling like I can maybe take vacations and go away for more than a day or two without feeling like things are going to get wonky.
Yeah.
So I would say, time like driving my kids to school in the morning, being able to pick them up, for this last bit, it all started during COVID. So I didn't have any of those things. I couldn't go do anything anyway. Mm-hmm. So in some ways I got into a somewhat negative, you could say negative, cycle where it was all about this, right? Okay. Because my family was around me all the time and we weren't going anywhere. We weren't going out to eat. I wasn't going to see any of my friends. I wasn't traveling, so it was all bread show all the time, mm-hmm. right? And that's what fulfilled me because people would come to the door and they would pick up. Those were the conversations I was having. That was the positive reinforcement I was getting. And then COVID started to disperse and lighten up a little bit. People started going to do things, coming out, people going to restaurants. And then I realized I was really out of practice, right? Because I was, 20 in all day doing this thing and enjoying it. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, well, I guess, I need to go see my mama. I need to go. I need
get out the house.
Yeah, I got to get out the house. I got to go do something, So it was definitely, it still is. I'm just now, I tell people I'm just now integrating my life back into my life. Mm-hmm. But I don't really see any of those things as this, like, you said, what did I lose? Mm. I don't really see like I lost anything. Okay. I see it as there are certain things that are important to me that have been put on a shelf for a while. But I've had that happen other times in my life where it's like, there's a season for everything, Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's like, I used to do that every single day. It's like, that's not really sustainable. Maybe I shouldn't do that every single day, So right now, I'm getting fulfilled by this project and the people that have been kind enough to lend their life force to my project. And so, I'll be there, 4 a.m, people come in 5, and it's like, good morning. Like I'm excited to see everybody. I'm just, hey, but yeah, would I like to, go have gumbo at my mama's house more often? Yes. Would I like to feel, comfortable, kind of like going on trips overseas and maybe even meeting some people that I've met online and going and seeing what they got going. Yeah. But I feel really fulfilled, so I don't really feel like a negative.
Got it. All in good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, but before we start,
am I used up all the time?
No, you didn't. But before we start getting ready to get out of here, look, for a regular home baker like myself, mm-hmm. right? So I have not ventured into bread yet, but I'm thinking about it, right?
I know somebody who can, maybe hook you up.
Hook me up, right? Look, I want to ask you just a couple of questions, right? This is called like sense or nonsense.
Okay.
You tell me. Ask a professional.
Okay.
AP flour or bread flour?
Bread flour.
Okay. Is it really necessary to weigh your dry ingredients versus just relying on measuring cups?
Never measuring cups. Always with a scale.
Really?
Yeah, down to the grams.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you making biscuits, it's a proportion thing, mm-hmm. and you can kind of eyeball it whether it's packed in or not, but it makes a big difference. I can pack a cup, and if I get 22% more flour in there if I pack it versus not, that's a big difference. If I put 220 grams, it's boom.
Different things.
Yeah.
All right. Egg wash, milk wash, or none?
4.
Bread tops?
None.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's a skill to getting your bread browned on the top without a wash.
Yeah, I have no wash.
All right.
Yeah.
Here's the last one. Bread maker or Dutch oven?
Dutch oven.
Okay. Enamel coated?
No, Just cast iron.
Wow.
I keep it grimy.
I'm a baking nerd. Look, I'm over here like, wow, for real? What?
Yeah, because the temperatures that you're going to be baking, our kind of bread, artisanal sourdough bread, is like 500 degrees.
Oh,
those beautiful enamel. I love a Le Creuset pan. Beautiful. Braise in it. All the things. Pass it down to your kids. Just don't drop it on the hard floor and crack it or something. But you put something in a 500 degree oven 15 times, and things start getting a little dingy, a little ashy.
Come on, ashy bread.
Yes.
Okay, so great. For all the aspiring bakers out there like myself, you just put us up on game.
And balling on a budget, you can get a combo cooker for like $40, and that thing's indestructible. Yeah, and then those fancy pans, they're beautiful, but you gotta bake a lot of bread in a $380 pan versus a $40 pan.
Cut corners where you can. All right. Well, this has been dope. I really have enjoyed this conversation. I think the last thing I'll ask you is, what your hope is for Rize Up, and what do you want your entrepreneurial journey to represent to other people?
I just want to make a difference. That's my key is we have a certain amount of people taking notice of what we're doing, because we have attention to detail and because we care and because we make beautiful stuff, and that's great. But my whole thing is, then what? Right? We have our Pay It Forward program where, we donate, I can say now, thousands of loaves of bread to homeless and people in need. And that to me matters way more than, being fancy pants. And, I don't get me wrong. I love the fact that people like what we're doing, but I feel like they should like it because we make a difference, and you can do that in a space by making beautiful stuff. You can also do it by giving back and making sure that, you reach your hand down and help people.
Yep.
Because like I said at the very beginning, we were homeless at a period of time, and we only got by on the kindness of others. So I want to use my time and energy making beautiful stuff and then making sure that people that need it can get it, and trying to make a difference,
Yep.
And that might be, teaching other folks that maybe look like me that this could be a beautiful part of their life. Like I felt like once I got kind of behind the curtain, I was like, I didn't even know this was an option. Right. Like I was, it was in the middle of COVID. I realized I'd never had a black teacher. I'd never seen a black baker, all these things where I was just kind of I felt like there was a whole part of the world that I didn't even know I could even be a part of because there was no one that looked like me.
Yep.
And so I'm going to try my best to make a difference in all the different ways I can. Some of that is in the culinary world, and some of that is social programs, and some of that is just, mentoring and helping people so that they can believe in themselves. Because if you don't know what you can be, it's like you kind of get lost, So,
Yep.
So yeah, make a difference.
Make a difference. I love that about the current food culture in the Bay Area is all the representation of Black people in spaces where there just traditionally either wasn't or not even really a thought that you could operate in that space. We don't typically see young Black women making jam. Marquita over at That's My Jam Company, Chef Joseph Pare at Limewood, executive chef over all of the Fairmont hotels, Chef Jeff Davis, who's coming to the podcast, who's working on opening Burdell, which is getting a lot of buzz. So all these people that you can see moving in these spaces that maybe just those doors weren't always open, but we're here now.
Yeah, we're here now.
Yeah. So tell people.
Keep it looking forward.
Hey, listen, we here. You came a long way. Tell people, even though you are so many places, I have folks that listen outside of California. So tell people here and beyond the best way to stay connected with what you have going on and how they can get their hands on some bread. Yeah.
So you can order bread from us on our website, www.riseupsourdough.com. And that's with a Z because my name's Azikiwee and I go by Z. So that's Rise Up with a Z. But most everybody finds us through Instagram. That's, if I'm anything known anywhere, it's Instagram. And you can kind of follow along with the story. I also think it's a really nice way to get a behind the scene look about actually what's really going on, instead of just being like, you go to the website, it's like, it's all ordering and like where you can pick up, when you can pick up, how to ship it to you. So it's beautiful, but it's not really informative. If you wanted to kind of follow our journey and see what's going on and see what we're getting into, I would say Instagram.
Come to ID. Well, the people know you in the streets. I think I told you that. They're like, oh, you got Rize Up Biscuits. Oh, yeah, Azikiwee. They know you.
Oh, shoot.
You out here.
Well, it's hard to miss me. I'm big. I swear I show up places and I'm like, I see pictures. Every once in a while I see pictures. I'm like, hey, take a picture of somebody. And then I see the picture and I'm like, Jesus, I'm huge compared to everybody else.
That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
And then you have an investment option too, where people can invest in Rize Up. Make sure you share that info.
Yeah. So we worked with the nice people over at SMBX. And the only reason that we even thought to is I have to throw a little shout out. Boychik Bagels. I reached out to the owner of Boychik Bagels and they were doing bond raising. And they raised like $1 million. And I was like, damn, you can do that? How you do that?
How you did that?
So I fully like hit her up. I was like, I know you're busy, but I need some help. And she said, oh, you should talk to these people. So we are in the process. We have a $350,000 raise that we're raising right now. And whether you invest $10 or, $10,000, you will get all of your money back. Plus 9.75%. So it's a good bet right now. It was a way for us to lightweight crowdsource investment and kind of not have to go the traditional bank route because I started at my house and because we've only been in business for two and a half years. We don't meet a lot of the criteria that a normal bank would lend on. So this way allows us to get an opportunity to basically sell bonds in our company. So I'm super excited about that. We're at about $106,000 of the $350 that we've raised so far. We need to get over 150 in order to qualify. Okay. So yeah, if you hear you want to throw a couple ducats our way, we'll pay you back with some percents.
Some percents. All right. So I'll make sure I post the info for that. All of the info for how you can check out Rize Up Bakery will be shared along with this episode. But thank you so much for coming out today in the rain.
I'll come anytime. This is awesome.
Hey, I'm glad. Yeah. Glad y'all get to know Azikiwee and Rize Up a little bit better. If in between episodes you are looking to get me a little bit get to know me a little bit better, feel free to stop by my IG page. Is Kaja versus Kaja. That's KAHJA_VS_KAHJA. That's this week's episode of the As Told by podcast. Peace. See you on the next one.